Unflattering portraits. 1. Pictures from Lucian Freud. Man with a Thistle, self-portrait. Further distraction, far more overwhelming, it paralyses. I close a book to find portraiture to obsess over, with eyes to stare into and empty pastel backgrounds to become lost in. Abandoning 2 separate projects to write in real time about a process not yet undertaken. A man boxed in by a too straight table edge. A mathematical thistle points to a ladder where 8x12 shadows form grey sunrises on Italian salt beaches. Large interior, Paddington. A half-dressed girl stares at a plant pot holding a sprawling vine. You suggest ivy. London concealed behind the glare across a window pane. The girl's right heel fits neatly into the dent of her left ankle. Her curves, you tell me, are too defined for her face. I begin to notice the forearms of Olympic swimmers, or the thighs of a mother. Witness to the death of oil painting, where the purely abstract, the uncreated, and the empty concept win prizes. One appreciates your ability to paint, a convincing flower pot, window, foot, hand, or overcoat. Whilst critics argue that digital colour photography killed the art of realist portraiture, hundreds queue outside metal detectors at the National to see The Queen, Hockney, John Minton. Your daughter, bare and open-legged on a sofa. Few are interested in an uncontroversial North London interior, devoid of wrinkles or pubic hair. Eyes stare, lost in the folds of a black overcoat. Etchings. After Constable's Elm. Eerier than its counterpart, now 2 centuries gone, what felt enlivened in coloured oils dies scraped into copper and eaten by a friend's acid. New fascination flicks through a pamphlet of etching, passes over naked feet and testicles to a trunk familiarly calm, yet made wild in grey. The shadow of spring far more amative than a tattooed arm, or a pair of breasts in a vacuum. Head of Ali. From your half-closed left eye, your cratered cheek, your kinked nose and cracked lip, it appears that you, Ali, were bashed about Lucian's car boot instead of your plate. Whilst pyjamaed Goodman, Bruce Bernard and unnamed women and girls float across cloud and snow, Ali sits against a scraped wall and scrap paper. You remind me of hundreds of thumbnails that sit beside verses in Cohen's Book of Longing. Your left shoulder climbable with the stacked wheat of your collar leaning against it. Her Majesty the Queen. Squashed into a simple frame with a curl of greying hair cut off on either side. This isn't an elegy. He cut off also that which you carefully chose to wear, named 12th most glamorous of your jewels by town and country. Everyone's writing elegies. Somehow, in performing that most natural act, you have outdone yourself. Today's newspaper, page 16, carries news of J.L. Goddard's assisted suicide, just 5 years your junior, in Switzerland. Barely 2 or 3 of the pearls on your necklace visible above just an inch or 2 of royal blue cloth, blue like Piero's painted face as he squashes himself into yellow and red dynamite. Blue like the sky flooding into the cinema where we sit for another elegiac special Sunday screening as Ferdinand and Marianne whisper like lovers in a darkened room. I tried writing an elegy for him. Never thought I would read T&C. Feels like a grown-up version of Tatler. The portrait, apparently controversial when painted. Royalists misinterpret your stateswomanly frowns and wrinkles for ugliness. A poker face, even like a corgi. I learn it is now owned, controversially, by him that had been Prince of Wales. In a centenary exhibition it hangs beside Lent by His Majesty the King and swathes of yellow wall. Two Irishmen in W11. Outside, the earth tones of a single council high-rise remind semi-detached Victorian Notting Hill of the dangerous 80s. White undereaves hit brown gable ends at perfect right angles. The sun fixed to shine over the roofs of convertibles into kitchens. On Amazon, I find a wrapped canvas print. Arrives after Christmas, viewable superimposed onto several rooms of a house, allowing me to check if dying trees under grey skies match my beige walls and three-person sofa. The young hand of a slim buttoned suit rests by an old shoulder and sedentary downcast eyes. After Cézanne. Discovering my photo had been blurred and the internet having proved useless, I called the gallery. No reply. Awaiting a different approach, I wonder how difficult research must have been, if not for Cézanne, then his academic contemporaries. Lucian even, at the beginning, requesting sittings through an only slightly more reliable Royal Mail. The frame juts out just enough to capture the girl serving tea. 2 cups, none for her. Following the row, he sits exposed, mirroring a chair in the only colour borrowed from his palette. The serving girl's breasts hang by her elbows. Still unable to find the Cézanne briefly owned by you, I write instead about one you created. Only the serving girl's right knee pushes her into the frame. Portrait of John Minton. Even you had to sit for him, sacrificing your own art for another's, relenting to a portrait from your lover. Did Adrian watch such intimate hours, consent to them, even suggest them, or paint elsewhere in ignorance? Your sharp angled cheek like the spokes of a thistle, thinly covered with someone else's dead skin, yellow as an Aztec drum. Such a limited range of colours make ashen and tired a face that bursts with light when left to lie on a boat by a harbour. The radiant work of your own hand, mistimed in the minimalist greys of real life. 2. Unflattering. Gertrude Stein by Pablo Picasso. Appropriately inquisitive, do you stare at another unvetted work in progress? Not many sit for him, not since he was amateur. Was he a friendly, relaxing host? I've heard Lucian Freud had many sitters, both friends and the famous. Perhaps you'd have preferred him. What's wrong with your eyes? Why is your left hand so flat, and smudges for ears? I locate the work in a book of better prints, a passing mention in the commentary, a for example, a useful comparison to Matisse, apparently. Poor lighting and a broken armchair. 90 sits. Nobody recalls why. Lucian would never have provided such a muggy place for living art. Did grandfather teach him well? The infamous friend, never an easy subject. Why not bring her down with earth tones? Better still, why not sketch her deformed, mustachioed, or not at all? Portrait of Henrietta Moraes by Francis Bacon. Last minute you step out of frame. The shutter captures your face in motion. Several sections and angles are overlaid to form a fleshy column of cheek and eye. The bolder orange pushes aside strokes of skin, separating them into blues and creams. Brown contours round the neck and chin like a penumbral shadow from a previous frame, against nothing. The purity of the orange highlights marks on the glass of my monitor. Would it have this effect in a private exhibition of populist London portraiture somewhere in Manhattan? Technically titular, you were nameless of many, providing nothing more than a generic profile upon which to play. Self-Portrait by Adrian Ryan. A mere derivative of Pissarro and Jack Yeats, a cruel critic might say. On first glance, your colours do shimmer so. Just the third of 3. On the phone, we discuss the institution and its finer permutations, the thruples and couples of secularly religious vows. Convincingly, you argue for all of it, leaving me to stare at Adrian in black like Martin Luther, with hair like stormy Strindberg's waves against a backdrop of falling goose feathers. Later, I start to relent, still debating with your ghost. Why not give your life to 2, 3, even 4? In the waning years of the totalitarian Reich, Adrian gave his youth to 2, sacrificing hours of pseudo-impressionist landscape to sit for portraits, only eventually to be replaced by careers and wives. Adrian, you don't even have a Wikipedia page. Later, back on the phone, we give up the institution. You tell me you like the painting. I still don't get it. 3. An Afterthought. Esther, 1980, by Lucian Freud. Strange that I should return to you, to this painting by you, at this moment. Quite odd, I find her warranting an older frame, and thus dust off another's brush and oils. One doesn't see a naked novelist, a writer's arms, exposed navel and thighs, almost a woman, still a daughter, eyes tossed toward another room, away and free. To read a transcript of the noises lost within the folds of that brown sofa ere the silence of the painter and the painted. How long can one spend recreating hair that grows by your own daughter's sex? It's odd. It might be good, but it's certainly odd.